My friend, who moved to Salzburg in his mid-50s, was absolutely convinced of one thing. Local women are the epitome of icy strictness and relentless order. He pictured them as living embodiments of the nearby Alpine peaks, majestic, inaccessible, and forever covered in the snow of cold reserve. That is, until the evening he went on a date with Martha. She was 48, a third-generation accountant, and seemingly a textbook example of this very stereotype. Imagine his astonishment when, after a few hours of refined conversation and a couple of glasses of Riesling, he found himself in a situation more suited to the pages of an erotic novel than to his biased expectations. It was in that small Alpine apartment that the myth he, like many men, had carried in his head for years finally shattered. But before I dive into why this myth collapsed and reveal the main secret of these local women, hit that subscribe button. Do it, if only so the algorithms stop feeding you stress and start recommending stories with happy, and rather spicy, endings. Subscribe? Let's continue. Late 19th century Vienna, seemingly conservative and buttoned up, was shaken to its core by the works of its most famous resident, Dr. Sigmund Freud, who exposed the deepest and most uncomfortable corners of the human psyche. A paradoxical question arises. Could it be that this very outward strictness, this public rigidity, creates that powerful internal pressure that only finds release behind the closed doors of a bedroom? Today, we are going to chip away at this glacial shield piece by piece and discover why, for a man over 50, an Austrian woman might become not a stern examiner, but the most appreciative and passionate partner.
Capable of valuing him for who he truly is. The secret to tearing down all psychological barriers in an Austrian bedroom lies in a simple yet fundamental aspect of the local mentality: radical body freedom. We're not talking about promiscuity, but a culture known here by three letters: FKK, short for the German Freikörperkultur, which literally translates to free body culture. This isn't a passing trend or an eccentric hobby. It's a part of everyday life that dates back to the early 20th century and is deeply rooted in society. For Austrians, and especially Austrian women, visiting saunas, thermal baths, or designated lake beaches together is completely normal. From childhood, the body is not an object of shame or mystery. It's not locked away behind complexes. It is accepted as a given, with all its unique traits, its age, and its natural changes. This has a direct and powerful impact on intimate life. Imagine a typical scenario. A man over 50, meeting an interesting woman, often experiences what psychologists call anticipatory anxiety. Thoughts race through his mind, suck in the stomach under the light, feel self-conscious about chest hair turning gray, turn off the lamp quickly to hide the traces of lived years that he views as flaws. In a relationship with an Austrian woman, this anxiety dissipates like morning mist in a valley. Simply because, to her, your body is no longer a puzzle or an object for critical evaluation. She grew up in a society where she saw the bodies of her parents, grandparents, neighbors, and friends of all ages and builds, and all of this in the most ordinary, non-sexualized environment of a sauna or peel. That's why wrinkles, gray hair, scars, or a bit of a belly
Evoke neither rejection nor mockery from her. They are perceived as part of your story, your individuality. What turns her on is not a glossy magazine picture, but naturalness, authenticity, and the calm self-acceptance you project. I'm reminded of a story about a 60-year-old compatriot who went to treat his joints at the Tyrolean thermal springs. His first visit to a mixed sauna was a mild shock, largely due to his own stiffness. But soon he noticed an interesting phenomenon. Women his age and older, locals, felt completely liberated there. They chatted, drank water, and paid no mind to their own nudity or that of others. And the glances they occasionally cast at the men were devoid of the critical, evaluating pickiness he was used to. These were looks of calm, almost aesthetic curiosity and respect for another's natural state. This experience became a true liberation for him. He realized that his maturity, his body bearing the marks of time, was not a flaw, but simply a fact. And this fact could be interesting, attractive, and even sexy to a woman who has walked a similar path and values authenticity over the ideal. When the need to play a role, to hide and to tense up disappears, all that remains is the pure, genuine pleasure of connection. In such an atmosphere, the very need to turn off the light vanishes completely. On the contrary, the light helps you see, feel, and enjoy without any pretense. And Austrian women in their bedrooms grant exactly this right, to be yourself, without masks and unnecessary shame. But what happens when the body is accepted, and the light, metaphorically or literally, stays on in the bedroom? This is where a second, equally important concept takes the stage, one that doesn't.
Have an exact English translation, but completely defines the rhythm of intimate life. It's Gemütlichkeit. Try pronouncing it. Gemütlichkeit. It means more than just coziness. It's an entire philosophy of unhurried, deep, mindful enjoyment of the moment. It's when you sit in an old Viennese cafe with a cup of melange, in no rush at all, savoring every sip and watching life go by outside the window. This exact principle is brought into the bedroom by Austrian women. For them, sex is not a sprint for a record, but a long, pleasant walk through a familiar yet beautiful forest where it is essential to notice every detail, every sound, every touch. Young sprinters, eager for quick results and intense acrobatics, often have a hard time here. They face confusion because their usual playbook doesn't get the expected response. An Austrian woman doesn't need a mechanical, machine-like process. She craves a deep, sensual dialogue of bodies, where rushing is the greatest enemy of pleasure. And this is exactly where a mature man, a marathon runner of life, gains an absolute advantage. He has years behind him that have taught him patience, attentiveness, and the ability to listen, not just with his ears, but with his skin and his heart. He instinctively understands that true pleasure is born from slowing down. The 40-minute rule isn't a stopwatch metric, it's a metaphor. It means that foreplay doesn't start 5 minutes before the main act, but sometimes back at dinner. It's a long, heartfelt conversation, shared memories, cooking a meal together, or a glass of crisp Gruner Veltliner that you drink sitting on the couch, touching each other completely innocently, yet in a way that sends shivers down the
spine. It's the creation of an atmosphere where transitioning to something more becomes entirely natural. Furthermore, an Austrian woman is your direct and honest ally in this process. This is another trait that breaks the stereotype of cold calculation. She won't suffer in silence or wait for you to figure everything out on your own. She is straightforward in her desires, but this directness lacks aggression or pressure. She might calmly take your hand and show you where it feels good, telling you what she likes more right now and what she likes less. This isn't an instruction manual, but a roadmap to mutual pleasure, sparing a man from the agonizing guesswork and trial and error that often ended in disappointment in his youth. She values not youthful bravado, but emotional intelligence, the ability to catch the subtlest nuances of her mood, to respond to a barely noticeable sigh or the curve of her body. European sociological surveys consistently show that for mature women, a partner's primary asset is precisely the ability to take their time and create an atmosphere of complete acceptance. By the way, do you agree that with age, the quality of intimacy only grows? Or is that just a pretty comfort for those over 50? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this unhurried Austrian approach resonates with you, hit the like button. Let's see how many of us appreciate the right rhythm of life. This is exactly why Austrian women often consciously choose older partners. They see in them not a fading potency, but a blossoming sensuality, which is far more valuable and deeply satisfying. This symbiosis of honesty, unhurriedness, and profound respect for the process transforms intimate life after 50 from a smoldering coal into a steady, warm, and lasting flame that warms both body and soul. The takeaway from all of this is simple, and it applies directly to you. Your life experience, your graying temples, your unhurried conversational style, and even those historical scars on your body. In the eyes of an Austrian woman, these are not a list of flaws, but a collection of the most powerful aphrodisiacs. You no longer need to put on the exhausting mask of a Hollywood alpha male, tense up, or prove something to a mythical judge. All that is required of you is to be yourself. A confident man who values comfort, depth of connection, and the genuine, unfeigned pleasure of every moment spent with an interesting woman. Being 50 plus in this context ceases to be a milestone of decline and instead becomes the starting point of a new, much more meaningful and vibrant chapter in your personal life. Europe, and Austria in particular, understood this simple truth a long time ago. Here, maturity is associated not with frailty, but with taste, wisdom, and the very ability to enjoy life that the hustle of youth often blinds us to. The next time you find yourself in this corner of the world, or simply meet a woman raised in a similar culture, do yourself a favor. Toss all your youthful insecurities and comparisons with the past into the trash. Instead, pour 2 glasses of that ice-cold, grassy Gruner Veltliner, sit comfortably across from her, relax, and just let your experience, your true, authentic personality speak for you. You will be surprised at how eloquent the silence of a mature man can be, and what an appreciative listener a woman who knows how to value this quiet, deep music of life will turn out to be.